Audi India is charging full steam ahead with the electrification plans for the Indian market. Now, earlier this year, they introduced the e-tron SUV, and right now they've come out with the e-tron GT, which is the sedan, the sports saloon version. Of course, this is the RS, that's the sports saloon version. There's a standard version, which is just the e-tron GT. But Audi India has committed to, setting up almost 15% of their entire fleet, whatever they sell in India, would be electric, pure electric vehicles within just a couple of years. So they are going gung-ho with their electric vehicle plans in India, and there is more to come from this manufacturer. But let me take you for a quick look around with what the RS e-tron GT has to offer. This is the sportier saloon version, like I mentioned. So yes, a lot of those accents that you would see look fairly sporty on the outside. Some things on the front end, a very dynamic, fantastic looking front end, nicely scooped hood out here. Now, if you look at it from certain angles, it will also remind you of something that Porsche does with some of their cars, especially the 911, where you've got this nice scooped out effect on the hood. Going lower further, again onto the bumper, you've got around this grille area, which would have otherwise been the grille, you can see the signature Audi treatment, of course, that hexagonal shape, but again mirror finished on these insert out here. The Audi logo, again, rather than chrome, it's got the mirror finish on there, very smart, very appealing. Lower down on this bumper, on the splitter, what you can see out here are dummy inserts. Now, this is where the radar system goes in, but Indian version cars will not get the radar at this point in time. Now, in here, you've also got adaptive venting, of course, which will also which directs airflow to the batteries, will cool them down when required. You've got additional cooling vents, intakes right here on the edges as well. And of course, this will direct airflow towards the braking to cool the brakes down. Overall, a very impressive design, looks quite handsome. Audi's matrix headlamps right in there, the LED system. Again, first time we saw them was on the R8 several years ago, and now of course the e-tron GT gets those as well. Moving over to the side, we've got 20-inch alloys and tires out here. These are Pirelli performance tires, and this is riding on a 245/45 profile, again with aerodynamic effects on the wheels. Now, this is to enhance not just but to reduce the drag coefficient of the car. What you can see inside are disc brakes, and these are tungsten carbide discs. Now, the tungsten carbide calipers, and essentially they give you one level of performance better than the standard steel discs and the standard braking system that you get on the regular e-tron GT. This is unique to the RS for that matter. Charging system, again, you've got your charging input right here. Now, like Audi does it, we've seen it on the e-tron as well. On the SUV, you've got a charging input on both sides of the car, on the left and the right side, both on the fenders, of course. Again, coming to this rear, I really like the silhouette. It's a fantastic silhouette. The nice coupe form that you've seen on the RS7 Sportback as well. So you've got similar, effect over here. Of course, the window area is narrower, but still there should be enough room inside. I'm going to check that out in a minute and show you that. Coming back towards the rear, you can see that sloping roof line. You can see the nice chunky wedge on the rear fender. Moving back to the LED tail lamps. Now, out here is where you've also got the adaptive spoiler. This will pop open at particular speeds, braking hard in corners, and of course, give you and shut down when you're at higher speeds to give you more of that aerodynamic effect. But yeah, we're still waiting to drive this car. What you won't see on the rear end, of course, look at it closely, there isn't an exhaust. So you cannot see end cans on this car anywhere. It's just one single slab of fiber. Now, all of this is fiber, and the e-tron GT, of course, this car, of course, sits on the same. This is shared with what Porsche does on the Taycan. This is the new premium electrification electric vehicle platform, but both the e-tron GT and the Taycan share. So essentially, this is what the Taycan also is underneath all of this skin. So there you have, that's what the e-tron GT looks like on the outside. I'm going to quickly take you inside the car and talk to you more about what the e-tron GT has to. If you get into the driver seat. So reasonably Spartan interiors as you see them right now, but still doesn't have the kind of drama that we saw in the e-tron SUV. Felt a lot more dramatic in there, but again, this is the RS variant, so it's more sport oriented. I like the way the dashboard kind of envelopes the driver, focuses itself around the driver, so you see certain of those elements, they lean in towards the driver's seat, gives you a lot more control over this car, at least gives you that feeling of being more in control of this car. Carbon fiber elements right here on the dashboard, nice screen touch, looks like a single slab over here, 10.5 inch touchscreen. You've got these lovely sports seats. What I haven't seen, and of course what Audi has shown us, that a lot of this of course is supposed to be made from recyclable elements as well, but we still haven't seen that in this car. Those are options as well that you can well select from Audi's extensive library of accessories. Coming to the powertrain that the e-tron GT and the e-tron GT RS of course use, they use both the 83.7 kilowatt hour battery pack, but again it is a quattro at the end of the day. Audi's proprietary, well, legendary technology is being utilized in this. So it's got two electric motors, one over the front axle, one over the rear axle, and of course there is that shift in torque between the front and the rear wheel. Another interesting bit is that the e-tron GT gets this two-step transmission unit. Of course, one of them is uses a drivetrain for efficiency and comfort modes, but there's also one for performance where you get the full torque output, you get the full horsepower output, and that's essentially for performance modes. So in driving conditions, again, what you do is effectively slip into dynamic mode, and then it gives you the full effect of that torque and power that the e-tron GT RS has to offer. The three driving modes that it's got, the efficiency, the comfort, and the dynamic mode. Now in efficiency mode, like I mentioned, the car lowers itself, the coefficient of drag reduces, you get the best range. In comfort mode, the suspension rises up by a bit, and of course the powertrain of course changes because it still stays in the efficiency mode. It's largely a front wheel driven powertrain. Power does not get delivered to the rear, but in comfort mode also it stays with that front wheel drive configuration, but as and when required, power can be delivered to the rear axle as well. In dynamic mode, it is largely a rear biased powertrain. All of that torque and power is delivered to the rear wheels to give you the full effect of Audi's well technologies, but that power can also shift to the front end if required, as and when required for that matter. Now this essentially reduces the drag coefficient on the car, gets you the best efficiency possible. In the e-tron GT, of course, that efficiency goes up to about 500 kilometers on a single charge, but on the RS that comes down to about 481 kilometers, which is still nevertheless good range, but these are WLTP cycles. Indian conditions, I'm not entirely sure at this point in time what that range would be, but I would say easily discount about 15 to 20% of that. You'd still nonetheless get about 300-350 kilometers range on either of these cars, which is fantastic. Now the output that you get from these cars, 530 horsepower on the e-tron GT. The RS e-tron GT increases that to 640 almost well horsepower, but you get about 630 Newton meters of torque in the GT and 830 Newton meters of torque in the RS variant. Now the RS can do 100 kilometers per hour in just about 3.3 seconds. Very quick car. The GT does it in 4.1, not too bad either, but it's effectively on it's all based on the ECU and how that mapping has been done, so you get a lot more power out of this. Again, keep in mind they're both using similar battery packs, similar powertrain, similar electric motors, but yes, the whole management of that is different in depending on what kind of characteristic you want out of the RS and out of the standard e-tron GT. Yeah, there you have it. These are the two cars. Now the only thing left, of course, is the pricing. The pricing for the e-tron GT is about 1.7 CR. RS e-tron GT, well, that's fairly expensive, upwards of 2 crores. Quite an expensive car, but I'm hoping that the performance that this car offers is well worthy of that price tag. Now I've driven the Taycan. It was super impressive, and I'm hoping the e-tron GT, the RS version, is just as good.